it's difficult to see that happening in even our lifetime or
your children's lifetime.
Our grandchildren's lifetime.
I think modern communication will help in that regard. I think before it was you're separated by geographical boundaries. You're separated by a mountain range or a river or an ocean.
Right.
That makes things inherently difficult. But when you have modern means of communication or modern means of travel, a jet. I mean, I could get on a jet and I could be on the other side of the planet.
Yeah,
by the end of the
communication brings down barriers. But I think that's why we use these games, we use these stories to explore these aspects of our society. I mean, everything is a mirror of our real world because you can only come up with things based on what you know. It's difficult to come up. So that's why you have these utopian societies like Star Trek, something to strive for, or
Logan's Run,
or Logan's Run. It's a different means to the same end. So, or you have
man's dystopia is another man's utopia.
Or you have these fictional games that we play to work through some of these racial issues because these games were created in a different time.
Right.
We need an orky Martin Luther King, Mike.
Oh my God, that is horrible. But I understand what you're saying.
I was gonna bring that up earlier. There was I wasn't gonna say that, but there was a guy in the Palmars. What was the guy's name that united the warring tribes and brought them together? What was his name, Mike? Turishmak.
But even that is not a unique thing because in Warhammer you have Sigmar who united all the tribes to build the empire.
Right.
These are
same themes. Like someone who would unite the orc people and demand equality through peaceful protest with other
kind of like or even an orc Gandhi.
Yeah, another great example.
Well, yeah, I mean, these games were created during a certain time, okay? Why haven't they evolved to more reflect our current situation?
I don't think I think they reflect them just fine. I mean, you have so much. It amazes me, as evolved as supposedly we are. We still go back to these base urges, these base, petty,
poor, uneducated white conservatives.
Well, I think that's
no. I'm talking about. I'm just talking about prejudices. I mean, like my wife says to me the other day that there's a whole movement online because one of the characters in the Hunger Games, they cast a person of color to be one of the cast members, and people.
You're talking about Lenny Kravitz, his character.
I have no. I've never read the books. I've never seen the movie.
I haven't.
So
seen,
all I know is
the movie's really vanilla compared to the book.
All I understand. What I understand is my wife said that there's a movement of people who are completely up in arms because one of the cast members is black, and that the book never actually specified that this was a black person.
Dude, last summer there was a whole. It was definitely fringe. There was definitely a fringe element of people that were up in arms and ticked off that a character in Thor was portrayed.
You're talking about Heimdall.
An African character or an African actor was portraying Heimdall,
right?
A Norse god.
You say that to Idris Elba's face and see what happens.
That's right.
But my point is,
well, he's British. I didn't say African American, did I?
But my point is, until we as people get over these petty thoughts and petty ways of life, we won't have a true utopian society like Star Trek.
True.
I think
even in Star Trek, the story was that there were a number of catastrophes that led up to. It was like, well, look, those of us who are left really need to stick together.
Is there still religion in Star Trek?
Yes, there is. I actually have a comic book at home.
Besides the founders, or are you talking about Earth?
No,
okay.
I have a comic book at home that it was a Star Trek, and granted, it's a comic book. It's not specifically anything that has to do with the television shows or any of the movies, but I do have a comic book at home. It's a Star Trek comic, and it depicts, I believe it's allegedly the, I guess you'd call it the chapel on board the Enterprise, and it's got, I'm trying to recall the artwork. It has a Star of David. It has the Christian cross. It has the Muslim crescent moon, and I think there was a couple other things in there. And that's the chapel it's allegedly the chapel on board the Enterprise where people go to worship on the ship.
Makes sense.
Now, I know where I think I know where Mike's going with this. That is one of those things that seems to, more than anything else, divide people on this planet is religion.
Right.
And
3 major religions all believe in the same God. And
don't try telling them that, though.
The the ones that aren't nuts,
the gods of the God of Abraham,
right? The ones that aren't nuts will all say that that's correct.
Getting way up.
Yeah, well,
you guys have been really good for that this episode. Thanks.
But, we're talking about societies. We're talking in what is designed in game to be a simple thing to say.
And Dan, you did say, "Let's see where this goes."
Yeah, right. This is where it went.
Right, and you can't help but talk about culture without talking about culture.
But I think that it's definitely a bigger topic than we had initially probably thought. But I think some very good points were made.
As we generally do, we bring up more questions than answers as we get rolling in these things.
Right.
I might revisit it.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it there. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next week.
Goodbye.
I could get out of my mouth and money.
Follow us on Twitter.
We're at Gamers Table.
Like us on Facebook.
Listen to us on iTunes.
Or on Stitcher.
Got a comment or question about the show?
Visit our website, gamerstable.com.
You can comment right there on the episode page.
Or you could send us an email, feedback@gamerstable.com.
Even better, you can leave us a voicemail at 559-546-1231.
Right. And if you do, we could feature your call on the show.
If you like what you hear, click our PayPal tip jar. It's only 99 cents, and it helps us keep coming back each week. Thank you for listening. Remember, new episodes are released every Tuesday, so please subscribe. Properties discussed during this podcast are the exclusive rights of their respective owners. Gamers Table is a registered trademark property of Side Tangent Productions.